Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rise and Slay Talk Show. My name is Rochelle Slay, or Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And y'all, I'm excited about this series that I'm going to be offered over the next 4 episodes. So thank you so much for being here and just coming on in, dropping in whenever you can, because we're going to have a very rich conversation about the visibility gap. All right. When we're going to go into our first episode of 4 today. So I am an executive presence and strategic visibility leadership identity expert. And I help under recognized women leaders close the gap between accomplishment and influence. Because here's what I know, here's what I lived for many years throughout my military career experiences. And now as an entrepreneur, is that too many highly capable women leaders are doing exceptional work. All right. Always showing up in excellence and giving and delivering the results that people are looking for, yet still being overlooked in the rooms where decisions are being made. Not because they lack talent. Okay. We're not short of that. Not because their lack of results, because we do produce that, but because accomplishments do not guarantee influence. Okay. Accomplishment does not guarantee influence. So that's where strategy really matters. And that's why I am in this process of creating strategy, not only from using the skill set that I had in the military, but as a business owner. And I have to be more strategic now. Each week on this show, we're going to talk about executive presence. We're going to talk about strategic visibility and leadership identity, because how you show up, how you communicate, and how others experience you and your leadership directly impacts your visibility, your credibility, and your opportunities. I am the creator of the SLAY method. The SLAY stands for, first of all, we're going to use the word as our foundation principle of how we're going to get after this visibility gap. And that is, we are going to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. Now, the method for which we are going to do this by, very methodically, and each of the letters of the word SLAY stands for a grounding principle, a strategy that we are going to be using, and that is S, strategic identity, L, leadership presence, A, aesthetics authority, and Y, your narrative power. So you're going to see this a lot, all right, in all the things that I'm speaking to. You're going to see it throughout my LinkedIn post, my emails that I distribute out. So if you're not on the email list, all right, there's a QR scan code in the corner of the screen there that you can just take a picture of, and you can connect with me, and you'll be able to get access to when the events that I'm going to put on, workshops, I'm going to offer group programs, all the things. Okay. So you can go ahead and scan that. And then it has a whole lot of other things going on. Okay. That you can just look in more about what Slay to Success is all about. But as a creator of the Slay method, as well as spending 30 years of service in the United States Air Force, I'm here to help you to lead with greater alignment, greater authority, and greater influence. So let's really get started in this conversation today. So today's topic is why talented women leaders get overlooked. All right, I know what it feels like to be highly capable, highly committed, highly productive, and still overlooked. Overlooked for promotions, overlooked in rooms where decisions were being made. And for me, this wasn't really confined to one season of my career. I experienced it across my professional career several times, and it was painful. Painful to watch others with half my talent getting promoted and selected for opportunities. And I had to really stop myself and think about what was going on. Now, many as you know, I kind of break out my career in 10-year increments. The first 10 years, I don't know what was going on, but I know there was a lot of partying. There's a lot of social activities. I had a lot of FOMO. Okay. Had the fear of missing out on anything that was going on that was party related. All right. So I was there. I really wasn't concerned about my career. But then I started to notice that other people were getting opportunities and getting promoted, and I was being left behind. And in that system, right, everything is per structure and rank. People that went in or enlisted in the Air Force same time I did, some of them had two more ranks, and we were at the same mark than I did. So I started to pay attention to what really was going on. And those next 10 years of my career, y'all, it was like night and day. Okay. I had to step up. You know what I was doing? Let me see who I got here, y'all. Hey, Leslie, good morning and happy Tuesday. Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here with me live. We're just talking about why talented women leaders get overlooked. And I was just going in sharing a little bit about my journey in the military. And the first 10 years, I was just willy nilly, and I don't even know what I was doing in that. And then the next 10 years, I really started to pay attention to the rules, the policies, the standards, the behind the scenes of who was getting selected, why they were getting selected, who they were surrounding themselves by, who they were talking to, how they showed up, how they talked. I started to pay attention to that, and before you know it, I was selected as an independent duty medical technician, which at the time was an elite part of the medical community. And I think I was one of 70 something in across the entire Air Force that was in this role where I was deploying all over the place and providing medical care. It's very scary. I always thought that, something was going to happen and then my career was going to end. I mean, I was just always anxious. I was always thinking of worst case scenario. And in some situations, there was a worst case scenario, and I had to rise to the occasion and actually do my job. And thank goodness I was, really paying attention to training, and that kicked in. However.com, right? As I was moving and progressing, I knew some of the behaviors that I was demonstrating in that moment had to be adjusted to go into the next level. And so as I progressed into the military, I kind of saw there was now the opposite. Instead of me being left behind, there were other women being left behind because something was happening. All right. 15, 17-year mark of a woman's career. There are a lot of other factors that play in, right? We probably have a family. We have, like increased responsibilities. We're not feeling at our best. Sometimes our competitive edge is off because of, family commitments or whatnot. And, I saw a need, and I was like, you know what? I need to mentor a lot more of these women because now I'm progressing so that way they weren't feeling like I did when I was in those first 10 years where I was all over the place, y'all. All right. So in my entrepreneurial journey, it kind of, there was another shift that needed to happen. I thought because I had accomplished so much in my career, 30 years of service, y'all, you know, and being highly successful in that arena, I thought I could just translate that right over into the civilian sector and it would just work out. And before I knew it, other people were getting opportunities to come in to speak. People were getting clients. People were getting into the network. And I felt like I was so far behind. And I had to realize the reason why I was getting overlooked were for many factors, right? So let's just talk through that. All right. Again, you have a strong work ethic, you have that leadership capability, and you have experiences on top of experiences. And even transitioning into, wherever you're going, if you're shifting from one career to the next career, from one business venture to the next business venture, if you are in a community leadership, public service role, and you're, starting out, we have to understand, all right, missed opportunities can look a myriad of ways. But here's how it looked for me. I started getting clients who aligned with my expertise but never converted. Okay. That was in business. Also, I was speaking and the visibility opportunities were there, but I was speaking in different rooms where they were speaking in, the rooms where it really, really mattered. Right. And I had to do some uh discernment. I had to think about, is this in alignment with my business or not? If it's not, I'm just in there talking. And I didn't want that to happen for me. You know, I was in rooms again in the military and starting out in my business where I was not fully positioned within it. And I just went to a summit, and I was speaking with my great friend and sister in arms, Yolanda Tate, and we did a teaming event or a teaming session at the event. And it was definitely the right room with the right women for the right reasons. And in that moment, I felt at my best. It wasn't draining. I wasn't feeling like I was just there just to be there. I was adding impact. I was adding value, right? And we can tell the difference, right? So and it's so hard for us to think about being overlooked when we are sitting right there in front of everybody. But we have to come to terms with, is everything in alignment? All right. So that's why I use the framework strategic identity. So let's kind of go through this just a little bit, right? Do you know who you are and where you're going? Do you know who you are and where you're going? Do you know the purpose for which you've been called to do? These are the things that I'm helping clients and organizations figure out for leaders that are being overlooked. Because when you can't have this foundation, everything is a hot mess. There's all kinds of confusion. People don't know who you are because you don't know who you are. And you don't have an idea of where you even want to be. So people aren't going to engage with you. They're not going to take you seriously. So if you're not willing to take yourself seriously, how can you expect someone else to take you seriously? So we really have to get at the core of, who are you and where do you want to go? Why? What is the purpose? What is the calling? Leadership presence, right, is the next step up in the framework. And leadership presence, uh, I could tell you, I had no clue of what leadership presence was when I was, 10 years in the military. I was just getting along just to get along in there. I wasn't intentional about carrying myself into rooms. I wasn't intentional about the words that I was saying. I wasn't intentional about leading by example. I was not really paying too much attention into the details of leadership presence. I can always tell who is a leader of a particular team, organization, or even, as an individual. And I when I'm walking around into an event, I could tell if a person is really up to this leadership role that we all have in our mind, a picture of this person. And it is really literally, the aura, the energy, the essence, and you can tell. So, is that happening for you? One of the things I had to work on was my attitude. All right. I had an attitude of, I know it all. I can do it all. I remember I got into some troubles with one of my supervisors, and they ended up giving me a letter of reprimand, which was administrative paperwork because disrespecting them in their rank, because I had to tell them about themselves. All right. Now, I was a senior airman, and this individual was a master sergeant. So think about 4 levels up. Okay. And I'm telling you how I feel about you. And he said, tomorrow you are going to report in your full service dress uniform, and you're going to report into my office, and I'm going to, give you some administrative action paperwork or whatnot. And I had to realize that the way that I thought I should articulate, and my emotions got the best of me, really was a learning lesson. And I started to think about that situation as I matured in my career. So, leadership presence, you really have to have a deep understanding of emotional intelligence. All right. You have to have an understanding as well of visibility intelligence. These are two aspects that I had to learn very hard. And at sometimes in that situation, was a hard lesson for me. But think about it, right? When people see you coming in and talking and so forth, are you having this presence of them wanting to follow you, to trust, to know, to get to know you, to like you? I know that leadership is not a likability type thing, but we're all human. We want people to like us. I mean, that's part of it. But I just think that sometimes we don't think about what we're doing in the moment. We're thinking about other things, all right? And we're not really present in the moment. Aesthetics authority. Okay, so this is where my image consultant certification really comes into play. And it's yes, it's about what you're wearing, how you're presenting. And I listen, y'all, I'm telling you, the first 10 years of my military career was a doozy because I was always pushing the standards, the instructions. I used to have long nails, so I have my nails now, right? And just think about having these nails while I was in service. No one called me out. This is, I think, again, when I was a senior airman, and I had been in like between 4 and 6 years of service. And I had my hair up and it was in a ponytail, like I do a whole thing. And I couldn't even wear my hat on my head because of my ponytail was just so high. I just wanted to be cute. That's all I wanted to do in service. And no one was calling out. But you know what they were doing? They were overlooking me. They were not including me into any type of conversation whatsoever. All right. They were basically hiding me. I think I had like this washed out uniform because I refused to go and get a new uniform because of the cost of the uniform. And I said, you know what? I'm going to wait until my clothing allowance, which comes, once a year, to go and get me a uniform, even though it looked so bad, y'all. Like the knees had white on them because as a medic, I was sometimes on my knees picking up litters or, doing CPR, so it was like, it was a mess. It was a mess. And so again, I was being overlooked. I remember my desk, okay, because they give you like an area, and I wouldn't keep anything neat. I had papers and stuff just laying around, and they weren't organized. I knew where everything was at because I would just, go to the pile and, pick it out, and I'd just be like, okay, here we go. But what people were seeing was that I wasn't ready, okay, from a visual standpoint. And so we have to understand those are things that people take in. Even when I go to networking events, I have to be very mindful, right, of the spaces that I'm going into and who I say I am and where I'm trying to go. And it all has to make sense. Anything that is off, people don't trust it and they won't believe it. Right. So I have to be able to be in the details. One of the things that I learned too, y'all, you know, having papers and stuff in your purse, because you know how we do, y'all. We put all kinds of stuff in our purse. And then when somebody says, hey, do you have a business card? Or, do you have a pen? You're digging in this purse that's got receipts and notes and, things just flying out. And it makes you look so disheveled. And I have to clean out my purses before I go to any event because I don't want anyone to think, oh, well, this is how she's going to handle me. Okay. No. So when I talk about aesthetics authority, I'm talking about the bigger picture. I'm not just talking about what you got on. I'm talking about what do people see and how do you present yourself in all aspects that you're doing virtually and in person. So we're going to, step off of that for just a second. And then our narrative power, right? It is also included into why we get overlooked. So a lot of times when I used to see patterns, all right, and I continue to see patterns of women who are in these higher leadership roles, or they're the CEO or community leader, and what they talk about when they're in small groups, but these are groups of people they may not know, it can be a little bit like, why are we talking about this? Like in my head, I'm like, why are we talking about that? Right? There is about 15% of information that I will not share with you. That just that's what it is. I'm not going to share with you conversations that I'm having with my husband. I'm, so, sometimes we have to realize, our narrative power, and the Y stands for your narrative power, has to be what is something that you can communicate in that moment where you're not going to offend, you're not going to disrupt the flow. Some people talk over people. Some people just maybe, I don't know, you don't have a social life. So when you go out in public, you just want to tell all your business. All right. That dilutes your authority in your narrative power, and people will avoid you. This is why some women are getting overlooked. We have a lot going on behind the scenes, but when we are stepping up and you're like, you know what? I want to be seen, heard, valued, remembered. We got to be mindful of what we're putting out there. Okay. Good morning, Chevy. Welcome to the Rise and Slay talk show. Thank you so much, Queen, for being here. We're just going through several different ways or opportunities that these talented women like ourselves are getting overlooked. And this is just a reminder, right, that we need to stop what we're doing and really be intentional, deliberate about what it is that we're doing, because we don't want anyone to pass us over for the opportunities that we are lined up with. So we have to understand, to have leadership influence, all right, we have to be in alignment between how we show up, how we communicate, how we carry our authority, how we position our expertise, and how others experience us in our leadership realm, wherever that's going to be. All right. So this is not being performative or being fake or being arrogant in any such way. It's about being aligned. And I love being in alignment, especially with those four different areas, because as you continue to master those, all right, you can then see yourself being invited into spaces that you would never even think that you would be a part of or even existed. So visibility is literally leadership stewardship. All right. People cannot advocate for what they cannot clearly see. Again, people can't advocate for what they can't fully and clearly see. And many talented leaders unintentionally hide behind productivity. All right. I've been guilty of this many a times. I remember too, when I was in service, these little office parties that they have, somebody's birthday, or, somebody got promoted, or, somebody was leaving and PCSing, what we call, permanent change of station. They're going from one base to the next base, and we have this little party. You know what I would do, y'all? I would be that person to organize the parties. And then that's what I started to become known for. Oh, okay, Rochelle, she got it. All right. Or at the time is, either Sergeant King or Sergeant Hemingway. She got it. And they would hand that and pass it over to me. So that was just this being productive with no clear agenda of what was to happen for me in the future. So I had to get back from behind that scene and being known for that and being known for my experience. All right. So you don't need to become someone else to lead powerfully. All right. You already have it in you, but you do need to have alignment between your accomplishment and how your leadership is being experienced by others. And that is really the work. So that is all about the visibility gap, and just giving you a little bit of insight using the framework as a guide. And as we close today's conversations, I want to leave this with you all today. Your next level of leadership isn't about doing more. All right. We got a lot going on. We don't need to do a lot more of this and a lot more of that. It's about really becoming more aligned in how you show up, how you communicate, how this leadership is experienced. Your accomplishments have gotten you here, but your presence, your visibility, and your influence will take you further. I absolutely know that, because that's what I'm doing, not only for myself, but for the clients that I have been blessed to be partnered with, as well as the organizations that are bringing me in for presentations and keynote speaking. So if today's conversation really resonated with you, share it with a woman leader who really needs this message. And if you really want to close the gap between accomplishment and influence in your own leadership journey, make sure you're connected. All right. The QR scan code is in the corner of the screen right there. You don't want to miss out on anything. That is the links to everything in Slate to Success, the books, the email list, the website, you name it. Okay. You can find it all there. So don't miss out on that. So you don't want to miss out on things that I am working on, which are workshops, programs, events, and other exciting information. So until next time, y'all, keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And I will see you all very soon. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Chevy, for being here live with me this morning. And I'll see y'all this Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Slate to Success Talk Show. Bye-bye. It's great seeing you too, madam.